Hello everyone and welcome back to the IELTS Plus English podcast, where today we're going to talk all about tourism. Episode 79. We are getting to the end of 2 seasons. This season from 41 to 80 is almost at a close. We've had some wonderful topics and today is no different. Tourism. So again, bit of a comfortable one. I feel like the past 5 or 6 episodes have been quite comfortable. And there's lots of lovely language. Let's see. We've got souvenir, staycation, very trendy word, staycation. That means that you stay at home or some hotel in your local area rather than traveling. Excursion, ecotourism. So some nice words today, and they are all available, you know where, in the IELTS Plus Total Speaking textbook on www.britplus.net. And I'd like to start today's episode with a student question, with something that I am genuinely curious about because I love traveling and I want to know from you, what is the most famous... No, let's change that. What's your favorite tourist attraction in your country? What's your favorite tourist attraction in your country? Please let me know, because then if I travel to your country, which I hope I do, I will know where to go. What's your favorite place? What's a good place to visit when I'm in your country? So that's your student question. And I think we'll get straight into it today. We'll start with some part ones as usual. And the first question is, how often do you go on holiday? I go on holiday. It's difficult to say, but I would say I travel abroad once a year and I do some form of domestic travel, perhaps twice a year. And maybe one of those would be a staycation where I stay somewhere near the house, not very near, but within, let's say, 10 kilometers. And we just enjoy the hotel, maybe a nice hotel breakfast, something like that. So that's probably how much I travel. Next question. What do you usually do on vacation? Well, again, it depends on the type of holiday, the type of travel. But I really like to... I love eating. I love going to places where you can go to nice restaurants and experience interesting food. I love staying in interesting accommodation, because especially nowadays, having a child, is if you can stay in some accommodation that has a swimming pool, that's much better. My daughter will be much happier about that. So yes, staying in nice places and eating nice food. That's my perfect vacation. Okay, let's go to part 2. So we'll get 2 minutes on the clock as usual. Today's question is, describe a tourist attraction you have visited. Okay, nice and simple. A lot of places come to my mind, but I think it would be most interesting to talk about somewhere in England. So let's give this a go. 2 minutes are on the clock. My time starts now. I'd like to tell you about the London Eye. I went to the London Eye maybe 12 or 13 years ago, and it was... it had been around for a long time, but I had never visited it. So we decided to go on an excursion. We lived outside of London and we went on an excursion to London, stayed in some fairly cheap accommodation, but visited various tourist hotspots. And one of those was the London Eye. We went there, we did the London Eye. There was a nice kind of 4D theatre experience connected to the London Eye afterwards. And overall, we had a wonderful time. So let me tell you a little more about the London Eye. This is, I think, on the north side of the Thames River. It's a very large Ferris wheel, I suppose, and it has these pods on it where you stand inside. There's lots of room, and it gives you an incredible visual of the city skyline of London. And I don't know how long it took, maybe 20 minutes or so. It's not that long. And then you get off, and as I said, you go to this cinema 4D experience. I don't know why, but that was connected to the ticket that we bought. For me personally, it was a great experience. It gave me a different look of London. I'm very familiar with London, but looking down at it from so high was good. Though having said that, when I fly into London nowadays, you generally get a very good view of London from the plane. Very similar look. So I've seen it a number of times now. So yeah, a great experience. And okay, wow. Well, I almost got onto future there. But I tell you what, something I want to mention about my structure, and something that kind of a common mistake for my students, the past section. So you probably know now with episode 79, I introduce the answer, in this case, London Eye. I talk about the past for about a minute, and then I switch to the description section. What I like and what I did today is, as much as you can, the past section obviously is past focused. So I told you about my experience, and the description section is present focused. And the reason I like to do that is it gives a variety of grammar tenses, and just it ensures that you have totally different focus points and there's not going to be any overlap or repetition. So yeah, in this case, I talked about my experience. I did this, I went there, and then I moved to the description section, and I focused the London Eye. What is it? What does it look like? How big is it? That kind of thing. So do try to divide into those two sections. Okay, well, let's get on to part 3. And our first part 3 for today is, what are the advantages of tourism for a country? Well, I think that when a country becomes quite a popular tourist destination, obviously the benefits are related to the economy. The main benefit is related to the economy. A country will become popular, more tourists will come in, and they can sell souvenirs. And they often do. I've experienced many times in various countries where they have a huge selection of souvenirs, which are quite expensive. Some examples that come to my mind are Thailand, and then recently I went to Vietnam. And certainly my family, bought a lot of popular items from that country. To give you an example, in Vietnam, I bought lots of hot sauce. Chili sauce. And it's wonderful. Now, I don't know whether we can call that a souvenir, but for me, it was a souvenir because it gave me a memory of that country and something that was an important experience for me. Good. Okay, well, 2 things I'll mention there. Of course, I made that a little bit about me. Let's try to avoid that in the next 2 questions. We'll try to make it more society focused. Another thing, just to let you know, if you're watching the video and you notice in the middle of an answer I cut, there's an edit, it's because I have hay fever, which is an allergy to flowers, to trees, and I keep sneezing. So during my answer, I may sneeze, and in that case, I will cut out the sneeze. So please don't think I'm cheating. I am just sneezing. So let's go to our next question, which is, what problems can tourism cause for local people? The biggest problem, of course, will always be over-tourism. You often see through, very often because of dramas or YouTube, that certain countries or locations become very popular. There's a big travel boom in that area. And therefore, you have a flood of tourists coming in. A good example of this recently has been this drama called White Lotus, which is, I haven't watched it, but it's a drama about kind of murder mysteries set in holiday locations, very lovely places like Cyprus and Thailand. And inevitably, after each season wraps up, there's a huge flood of tourists to that region, and over-tourism becomes an issue. Because of that, you get things like inflated prices, crowded streets and restaurants, and pollution. So that is a big negative effect of tourism. The next question, how can tourism be made more sustainable? Well, I'm not sure. I suppose you could limit the number of holiday makers that come into a country. I don't know how you do that. I don't know if there's a fair way of doing that. You do see some countries nowadays add a kind of, I don't know what it would be called, but it's a tax. It's a holiday tax that when you go into the country, you have to pay. I think a good example of this is in Bhutan or somewhere. I can't remember the name of the country. There's a few countries that they're almost they're quite difficult to travel because of the tax you have to pay in order to get into the country. I'm not saying that's a good method, but we certainly have to find a way of managing over-tourism. I suppose the other side of it as well is to manage the amount of development. Of course, if a government allows an area just to keep building hotels, then the capacity of tourists will increase, and then again, you'll get too many tourists in a single area. Excellent. I have no idea if that was the correct country that I was trying to think of. Obviously, I can have a look after this episode, but whatever I say in the episode is just off the top of my head. So apologies if that's totally the wrong country. Anyway, that is tourism done. I had a blast. I really enjoyed that. I hope you did too. And next week is the final episode of season 2. It will wrap up the textbook of 80 topics. So huge episode next week. I hope you'll come and join me. And that episode will be on work-life balance. Okay, have a wonderful week. Study incredibly hard, and I'll see you next week to talk about work-life balance.